Welcome to episode 19 of Liquid Velvet Literature. Same shirt, different day. Or has it been ever since? Welcome to episode 19 of Liquid Velvet Literature here on Prose Radio. It was a Tom Waits kind of morning here at the house. I woke up and I brushed my teeth to Gun Street Girl and I made my coffee to walk away, which is why I introed that in the beginning in the quotes. And I think I was in the mood for Los Angeles. It's raining today. I got on my booth. It's soaked. The city is drenched. And I was in the mood for LA. The old LA, like the black attire and mode of Tom Waits, and what a beautiful heart in that man. And so I've been playing him all morning, and it kind of led the pieces today that I got into. So without further ado, let's jump into those. I grew up with a mom who possessed that dangerous combination that is mindless stupidity and a complete absence of common sense. Frankly, it is a turn water into Jack Daniels level miracle that I survived long enough to experience a wet dream. Now you might think I'm exaggerating, but I am convinced that tweaker larvae, such as myself, who somehow managed to survive into adulthood, must live charmed lives. To that end, I've always thought that our meager Rush concert parking lot, cheap beer, and we don't need a rubber baby 'cause I love you beginnings were worthy of being chronicled by a wildlife documentary narrator. I can imagine Sir David Attenborough's dignified voice passionately describing how the odds are against tweaker larvae from the moment of backseat of a Ford Pinto conception, explaining that tweaker larvae face an uphill battle for survival against their natural predators. The harshness of their open septic tank fume-filled habitat, and the dumb fuckery visited upon them by their parents. In fact, fewer than 1 in 4 tweaker larvae live long enough to reach that developmental milestone of fornicating with their stepsister in the bathroom of their cool uncle's double-wide. So, you may be wondering if I have evidence to back up the miracle of my survival into adulthood? Well, buckle up, because the events I am about to describe are true. The names have been changed not to protect the innocent, but because I can't remember them. Any resemblance to the living or dead is probably not a coincidence, because people who are this level of stupid are blessedly few but totally unforgettable. The little town of Hayfork is remote. Put your finger on the most northwesterly part of a map of California in the dark orifice of the Cascade Mountains, and you're within a fingernail's distance of the town that has all the charm of 4-stage rectal cancer. Being surrounded by logging-raped mountains, Hayfork was home to the rugged, the unemployable, and the human equivalent of the sticky film that can be scraped off a cheap motel mattress's cum-stained surface with a fingernail. Where else would my mom and her douche of the decade husband want to live? They were never happier and took to Hayfork like a tapeworm takes to the walls of the small intestine. Now, I was in the 4th grade, and if living in a Grizzly Adams on an acid trip town wasn't bad enough, I contracted lice. In fact, I think the entire 4th grade had the dandruff-dwelling insect Dracula wannabes. Being a Bay Area kid used to living with a totally insect-free and meticulously clean grandma, I had never heard of lice before, and discovering the cause of my itching was enough to make me want to spew my fruity pebbles. Like we could afford name-brand cereal for me to spew. The school nurse doing the lice check saw the disgusted and distressed look on my face and assured me that lice was easily cured with a special shampoo and a bit of cleaning. So she handed me my "he's infested so get out of school free" card, and I was sent on my way. So, this is the part of the story where my mom's ocean-deep level of stupidity reveals itself. Returning home with the nurse's note in hand, I thought my mom would immediately wage war against the frolicking fucks that were tormenting me. I remember naively standing there thinking that my mom would do whatever it took to get rid of the cranium crawlers. Boy, was I wrong. Cigarette in hand, my mom took a sledgehammer to any hope that I would experience a normal, safe insect exorcism anytime soon. "I've seen this Rid shampoo," she explained. "There's no way we can afford enough of the shampoo to treat the 5 of us, but I can definitely do a good cleaning around here." Now, even at the age of 9, it wasn't lost on me that my mom and her husband's priorities were always focused first on their addictions. So, they would never, no fucking way, were the adults here, sacrifice their cigarette money for something as trivial a treatment, for the disease-carrying, anemia-causing, scalp-inhabiting parasites that were crawling on the heads of the children in their care. I'm gonna get through this. In one take, you watch. This is, I'm really holding it back, trying to read this, but I love this writer. Okay. So, instead of finding a way to buy the surefire cure for lice, my mom went to the maestro of the methamphetamine, the wizard of weed, the duke of domestic violence, and the undisputed champion of human worthlessness that was her husband, to see if he could find a low to zero-cost cure for lice. Oh, shit. Now, let it be known that methamphetamine and common sense go together like baby ducks and a wood chipper. Still, after scouring Hayfork's 3 bars and probably half a dozen meth labs, dipshit came home with the solution: kerosene. Someone told him that adding kerosene to shampoo and applying it liberally to the lice-plagued scalp will kill the bugs and loosen their eggs from the hair follicles. Okay. Now, here's the issue I had with this cure for lice. My mom was incapable of doing anything without a lit cigarette within arm's distance, and kerosene is just a wee bit flammable. In fact, a couple of years prior to this unfortunate situation, my mom discovered the hard way that freshly applied Aquanet hairspray and a lit cigarette can turn one's hair into a rather foul-smelling fireball. Somehow she got lucky and managed to walk away with just a smoldering bald spot and a slightly scorched scalp. Jesus. So I guess she was thinking her luck would continue to hold out at least until the end of the lice infestation. Smoldering bald spot. Oh, just fucking see that. Stay the course. All right. Convinced that she had a cheap cure, my mom got started treating us with Vidal kerosene. Of course, I got the honor of being the first up for treatment. The second the kerosene shampoo hit my scalp, I made a couple observations. First, that shit burned, especially where I had ever so slightly broke the skin while scratching the louse bites. Second, if any of the mixture got into my eyes, I was fairly certain that I would be rendered blind by chemical burn. So, with my eyes sealed tighter than a nun's no-fun zone, all I could do is pray that my mom wouldn't go in search of her cancer-causing pacifier long enough to get this shit rinsed out of my hair, because I just knew that if this took much longer, my mom's nicotine craving would beat the fuck out of her sickly maternal instinct, and she'd brainlessly bring a lit cigarette with flaring distance of my kerosene-drenched pate to satisfy her need for that smooth camel flavor. Oh, my God. As a pasty-skinned Irish kid, I was understandably nervous because I didn't relish the idea of looking like the marshmallow that falls into the campfire. Now, I was a 9-year-old kid with a very fertile, manure-nourished imagination, sitting there helplessly upon the toilet seat, losing precious brain cells by the second. I already had so very few to spare. To the kerosene fumes, I imagined the lice on my scalp freaking out as the poisonous vapors produced by the kerosene choked the air. I could almost hear their tiny panic screams of, "The crazy bitches using kerosene, grab your babies and head for the pubes," as they called, for an evacuation. The joke's on them, I thought. The little fuckers are gonna freeze because I'm only 9 years old and can't even claim to be growing a sparse crop of peach fuzz below the equator yet. Somehow, I made it through the treatment with my sight intact and without being turned into a human torch by my mom's smoldering cancer stick. After a good lice combing, the lice comb borrowed, of course, a deep cleaning, and the bedding was set out on the clothesline in 30-degree and 30-degree weather to freeze any survivors, we were given a clean bill of health. So, yes, kerosene works to get rid of lice. However, I think that the lice left by choice, because even parasites smaller than a grain of rice are smart enough to know that putting kerosene on a child's head is just fucking stupid. I have since theorized that the lice grew afraid that they'd catch my mom's stupidity if they fed off of her and her offspring. I'd say that the little bastards probably had a point. Of course, this is just one example of the dangers I faced as tweaker larva. In his effort to educate, Sir David Attenborough would also note that the other dangers tweaker larvae face in their struggle to survive long enough to live up to their full potential of getting a job at Walmart's Lube and Oil Center. Other dangers to the welfare of tweaker larvae: being raised by parents who have both a surplus of guns and a total lack of even lizard brain level common sense. Seatbelt-free rides to school provided by mom who's still over the legal limit after a night of homemade Kahlua, watching Dallas, and consuming the best bean dip and saltines. Chips were for people bringing in temporary disability checks, kind of money, the lucky fuckers, that food stamps can buy. I just went and got a refill. I didn't want to leave the camera running while I went out. That explains the edit, the switch. Okay. Ooh, I really want to do this all in one take. I read this guy before, and a long time ago, I just did an audio version of one of his stories, and I couldn't get through it. It was so funny, and unfortunately, I deleted the footage on accident. I was sweeping out some old private or unlisted videos, and that became it was a casualty of war. So I missed that footage. It was really fun. It was the first time I ever cut loose on the channel, and it was just such a fucking great story, and like this one. So anyway, where was it? Oh yeah, okay. Side note, this story is really close to home for me on a lot of levels. I'm not laughing at the reporting going on here. I'm laughing at, I remember growing up and having both of my parents chain smoke, driving me to school. I think we were in Texas somewhere at some point. And they were driving my brother and I to school, and windows up in the station wagon, they're both smoking, just heater on. And I just remember that thinking, holy fuck, this sucks. And, but back then you were so used to it that, everybody in the class smelled like a cigarette. And, but yeah, this is, anyway, here we go. The ever-present threat of spontaneously combusting trailer park meth labs. Evil CPS social workers like the ones you see on Mom's Lifetime movies. Having the cinder blocks that are holding up the Camaro in the front yard that you're hiding under give way. It seemed like a good place to hide from that step-parent who, after a 3-day meth binge, has decided that 12-year-old you are the reason the old lady backtalks. That you have somehow caused every perceived failure they've ever experienced. And if they get rid of you, they can keep getting your SSI checks until someone reports you missing. When questioned, they'll just blame his real dad, saying that he offed you because he owed back child support. Jesus. After all, dead kids don't require monthly maintenance. I don't think Sir Attenborough would call tweaker larva an endangered species exactly, or even one that has a valuable role in the ecosystem. However, I'd like to think we're at least worth the consideration that the puppies and kitties get in those ASPCA commercials. You know, those depressing, take all my money to feed the little puppies and kitties commercials with Sarah McLachlan singing In the Arms of the Angels to drive the sad plight of the little fluffballs home. Of course, I'm not sure if I can pull off puppy dog eyes, but maybe someone will have a soft spot for a beady-eyed inbred rat. Yeah, that's... Yeah, what a great title, too. Yeah. Oh, I'm reading all these cold today. I just pulled this up and started reading. This, I didn't know it was going to be this long of a story. One of our admins liked it, so I wanted to read it, and it was spotlit, so. Wow. Yeah, what a great story. And again, it hit close to home. Okay, let's see. And this one is Aereo Man's No More Heroes. And this is I read this one in my brain, but I just love this poem for so many reasons. And side note, I know Aereo Man. Aereo Man and I met, I think it was 2010, late 2010. We met over my first book. He had bought it and read it, or he was given it. I forgot how he got it. It doesn't fucking matter. But he read my book, and we met in a bar in Washington and had a great conversation. I knew right then we were going to be buddies. And he's himself a published writer. He's talented, this guy, and I'm proud to know him. And this is No More Heroes. I contacted him because his novel was my life, and my life was destroying me. And when we finally met, he launched into a high-octane dissertation on being a card-carrying member of Alcoholics Anonymous. His name was Dan Fonte. His father was John Fonte. And as I listened to this goddamned goofball speak to me of sobriety and redemption, I remember thinking nobody would know you from Adam if it weren't for your father being one of the greatest novelists ever to rack the carriage with blood and spool his guts through a typewriter without an ounce of inhibition to create something beautiful from the chaos of his heart. Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember this story actually now that I'm looking back on it in person. He told me this story, and yeah, Dan, the last lines of this poem is better written than anything Dan Fonte has written, in my opinion. Sean Lennon. I don't know. I take issue with preachy bullshit, and I think that I'm not even a fan of John Lennon. I do like the Beatles to a degree. I mean, you have to. I don't care who you are. They were good, but they're good. I don't know. I like this poem though. This means a lot to me on a few levels, just because there's a line between, I think, honesty and bullying with some poets like Aereo Man who have that distinctive push in their voice. But, if the guy found AA, more power to him. Fuck it. I don't have any better answers. I just don't like his writing. Devoured through your window, I hear the gossip stepping into manholes. Pillar of steam evaporate me into puddles. Swoosh. Sitting fully armed in a chair made of your bones, I panic. This thought is quickly fading. Strangle the throats of my letters in your blizzard of fancy. If I could only tell them that those posters of you are hipsters you never meant to be. Space is the communication of atoms with other atoms. Time is the communication of an atom with itself. All other phenomenon are a sort of magic. But I do not mean magic in the restrictive sense, the worldly fireworks that braze the dragon's snouty maw. By magic, I mean to say that it is the medium of the communication, the infinitely twisted court-colored blend of language and air, an inseparable hardness between the psychological and physical. This is magnetism 1, gravity 2. The hard-crumbling corrosives and toxins that pull our fingers from off our hands, blotting the bones in a virus of sandpapers and sharpening them to shivs before spitting them back out in our heads to pull us apart, 3, and forgetfulness that glues us together like toys, 4. A free, healthy, and secure relationship, time and space both flowing free as water, is what we call death. And the whole system is an old dentist with 100 sets of teeth and not enough skull to accommodate all that brow. Mixer in the afternoon. All right, on my third, but outside the sun is frying everything in its touch. Everything regarding the city suffers. A famous commercial writer once said, "Never place your desk in front of a window." Sitting here now in the early afternoon, frontal lobe joggled just enough. Head change, ice at the bottom of a glass, sings as sweetly as Simone with the right timing. Watching the tip of the mountain burn from my window while I write. Take advice from no one if it goes against your gut. Ignore and avoid kept men with soft hands in weak imitation of the greats. Ignore their cries for attention and self-promotion, while they use age as a gauge for wisdom, while their wives fold their clothes for them in the next room, which overlooks a tiled den and a gorgeous yard. Ignore the bullshit. To simply survive is not enough. While outside the mountain burns and your words hit the page with force. The reward is doing it. The reward is in the lift of the heart. Those of us who have made a living off the writing will tell you it's a long and brutal fucker of a climb, but a climb with each second worth more than a life. Avoid the circles of trash, stench, and low-flying resilience. Aspire to money for contentment, but be driven by neither. Accept to banish, abolish to embrace. Don't place faith in the existence of things you cannot see, but place it in things you know must be there. Laugh at the sorrow while the sorrow eats you. And outside the mountain burns and sheds rocks like tears. The sun disfigures dream, the life of us gripped in the fist of our own surrender of fear, but spiked with moments of unfathomable joy, of moments combined in memory that becomes our fortress and gate, our Mars and Pompeii, our sunlight, lists, and metal, our poets, singers, thespians, and criminals of war. All the love inside, trapped but burning, beneath all the anger, waiting, beneath the unfathomed greatness built in moment to moment. The buzz gripping the mind, the time running out in this poem before I start sounding like one of them, and feeling the oddly warm comfort when you become what you despise. Sitting here in the early afternoon, the dead men on my shelves, the dead women on my shelves, the dead-eye stare of a mountain on fire, weeping across the desert west to California, where I know beauty must be waiting, while I sit here writing ugly in the desert, officially drunk, while the mountain burns and laughs at my stupid fucking face. And that's going to wrap today. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the talents featured on the show today. And before I go, as I always say, if you like to read or write, go to prose. Read, write, inspire, be inspired. We need your words. They're necessary for the world now more than ever. And I will see you in the new video. Take good care.